Hi, my friends, and welcome into this week's episode of Forte Catholic. I'm Taylor Schroll, the host here, and I'm so glad that you have found us. I'm joined today by two people. One of my normal co-hosts, Allison Sullivan. She finally did her homework from a few months ago, and she took her spiritual gifts assessment, and we talked through her results. What are her spiritual gifts? What do they mean for her? What do they mean for us? What do they mean for you? It's actually a very good conversation about how the body of Christ works and how we can all be using our gifts, and maybe the ones that we're not using as much as we should be. In the final segment of the show, Allison and I we do something new, and she asked me a lot of questions. I had been kind of stuck in this rut of coming up with ideas for the show, but I still felt like doing the show. So I was like, why don't you just ask me questions and see where it goes? And actually it was quite enjoyable. Also this week, we're doing a throwback episode with a guest interview right in the middle. One of my friends, Nick Senz from Twitter, he and I had this interaction there about Catholic saints and NBA stars and comparing the two. So whether you love the NBA or you love Catholic saints or both, I think you're going to enjoy our conversation. I know a lot more about NBA players than I do Catholic saints. That's kind of one of the holes in my Catholic knowledge. So I learned a lot about the saints from this conversation. I hope that you do too. If you do enjoy today's conversation, please hit subscribe wherever you are listening, or if you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate it. It helps more people find the show with just a really simple act of hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. Enjoy today's show. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Allison Jemima Sullivan. Hello,
that was
Allison.
Not your best what's up.
Why?
I don't know. It was just a little lackluster.
Maybe I'm feeling lackluster today. I don't know. We are recording this in a week that my kids aren't here.
Oh.
So I'm like super chill this week.
Yeah, it was a chill what's up.
Yeah.
How about that?
It's a summer what's up. It doesn't have the full gusto of the normal one. Our kids are gone staying with my parents this week. So
Yay, that's nice.
It's just Sam and I, and then you're here apparently, and she's not. It's super weird. So we're recording this very early. This is the Monday before July 4th. So this was the one day we're both taking off tomorrow, and then we have very little to do Wednesday or Thursday. Like we planned for it, but even though we planned for this last week, we knew we have to work one day. So we both decided all day today we're working. I've been recording or editing all day today and getting everything out for the week. We're going to see Guardians tonight. We're starting our vacation this evening. Essentially when you leave.
Not offended by that at all.
We get to start partying, But yeah, I'm in a good mood. We got a new bed after a decade, and I'm sleeping well.
Wow.
So the lackluster is not from a lack of energy. I'm just chill.
Okay, so you got a new mattress?
Everything. Everything.
Okay.
Could not afford it. Bought it on credit.
Yeah.
Paying it off.
It's expensive.
It's very expensive.
Now, what do you look for in a mattress?
I literally typed in mattresses for heavy people.
Old people. Okay.
No, heavy people.
Oh.
I was like, I needed a mattress that was good for heavy people, for snorers, and for people with allergies, because that's me.
Oh,
and they were 3. So it really narrowed down. And we picked one. We got a Sleep Number. Yeah. And it's very nice.
Yay.
We didn't realize it, but they're just, remember water beds?
Yes. All the rage in the 80s.
So there's earth, wind, fire, and air, the main elements, right? I've slept on an earth bed. That's just outside. I've done that.
Sure.
I would not recommend it. Water beds, pretty nice when you're a kid. I think it would pop if I went on a water bed.
Super impractical.
Now. Fire bed? No, thank you.
Yeah.
A Sleep Number is an air it's an air mattress. It's like a mattress with air that comes into it. It's very intriguing.
Seems like a lot could go wrong, but I think they've perfected their technology.
It's all I really wanted was to be able to sleep, but there's it tells me how fast my heart's going at night. How do you know this?
Wow.
It tells me how many breaths I take. I'm everyone has my information that you can just steal from me apparently sleeping now, but I don't care because that mattress that we had was terrible.
Yeah.
I weigh a lot, and the bed didn't hold it. I was essentially sleeping on the pieces of wood that we had between the mattress and the
it's not great.
Essentially earth again.
Right.
That. So I don't know. I'm doing well. And you're here.
Yes.
And you did
indeed.
something that I honestly can't believe.
Okay.
You did homework for this show.
I did.
I assigned you this homework 3 months ago, and I honestly can't believe how quickly you accomplished it. This is not a diss at all that it took 3 months. I can't believe you did it, period.
No, I'm a assignment tasker. Like I feel like I've gotten a bad reputation with you with homework. I don't know why, because when you had all your hosts together, like I was the one that showed up prepared. Like I like an assignment.
Mm-hmm.
If I like agree with the assignment and like think it's important and
that's the thing.
No, I know. So
asking you to do anything, you're like, nah. I don't want
people,
to.
when I say that I'm a rule follower, people are like, no, you're not. And I'm like, no, I am. If it's a rule that I agree with, then I will get mad when not only will I follow it, but I will be really upset if other people break it. I just have to agree with the rule. So anyways, I liked this assignment. This is a great assignment.
It was a great assignment. So just in case you forgot what happened 3 months ago, I think it was probably 3 episodes ago with you. We were talking about this spiritual gifts assessment that has been it's become a very big part of like what I'm doing. Like we do it at our foundations course, which people have heard about for a ton. It's essentially our 10-week course that we're doing here at our parish. We put it online on YouTube, youtube.com/Forte Catholic. Go watch the foundations thing. But essentially we have homework every night. And the homework for like week 1 is really easy. It's like, here's the Come Holy Spirit prayer. It's like whether you know this prayer or you've never heard it before, pray this. And the next week it's like, and then slowly over the course, it becomes like, it's legitimately like, I want you to pray this prayer 1 time before next week. Yeah. It legitimately takes 25 seconds, right? Yeah. And then over the course, they're mostly about 5-minute tasks. But then there's this big task before the last night. Homework for the last night is to take the spiritual gifts assessment. We're also doing it at our men's and women's retreats that we've been promoting here. We've done 4 men's retreats now. We're having our first women's retreat here in the fall. We also do this test as part of the retreat. And so I was talking to you about it, and because it's just been on my mind, and you're like, you hadn't taken it yet. And I was like, would you like to take it? And you said, yes, sometime in the next 3 months.
Yes.
And you did it.
Well, you did
it like an hour ago.
What's funny is that it's because you printed it off for me and handed it to me because you want to know what I have 0 of.
I know what I have 0 of on the test.
Yeah. Administration.
Oh, there you go.
So if you printed it off and handed it to me and said, here you go, then I will get it done.
So this comes from, what's her name? It's the lady that, Sherry Waddell. So most people know Sherry Waddell more recently for her Forming Intentional Disciples book. Like if you've heard Catholics talk about discipleship in the last like 5 to 8 years, it's because of Sherry Waddell. Like it's, yes, the word disciples been around a long time, but this whole like movement towards discipleship and forming disciples pretty much comes from Sherry Waddell. Before she did that, so like when I was a kid, I remember this like Called and Gifted. It's where this test comes from. I remember like, I think my mom took it. Like I remember it being a part of the parish like when I was a kid, but I never took it then. I didn't take it till college, but it's kind of making a little comeback, even though it was kind of her first project in like the 80s, 90s, somewhere in there. Yeah. But it's because of, it's very cool how it's connecting. Like all these people are like going through the becoming disciples. And then they're like, well, now that we're disciples, what do we need to go do? Right? How do we get? And for some people, not you, it's like this is the first time that they're like, okay, I'm a disciple. What do I do with this? What are my gifts? Where do I fit in the church? How can I give back? And clearly, you've been doing that for many years with speaking in podcasts and writing and all this kind of stuff. But even for people like you, for people like me, for people that are involved in the church or whatever, it's still cool to like see how it all fits together. It's going to be cool for me to hear your answers. I could probably guess 3 or 4 of them, but maybe some were surprised. So that's the background for the test. We're going to get into your answers here in a second, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else that people need to know.
I think that it's obviously very useful because the last thing anyone wants to do is be like laboring and spinning their wheels doing something that isn't effective. So, or that you're just frankly not very good at. You should leave that to someone else. Right. And so I appreciate anything that makes me more efficient as a person, and chances are the things that you're gifted at are the things that you enjoy doing anyway. And because an enemy's a jerk, we can so often tell ourselves that the things that we like are just self-indulgent. Oh, I don't need to do that. That's just me being, I don't know, that's just me wasting time, or that's just me spoiling myself or whatever. And when really what it is no, you enjoy that because that's what you're supposed to be doing. So I think anytime we get validation in those areas, it helps us run our race just a little bit faster.
Yeah, you're right. And like, cause like one of the things for me I was not surprised by the things that I did get, but I was, the most eye-opening thing for me was the things that I wasn't good at, that I was like doing for work.
Right.
So like one of the big things for like youth ministry and like, I was a youth ministry missionary and I got very low on the missionary, like, number. So essentially you take this test, you answer these questions, and then it's like, here are your gifts. The highest numbers are typically the things that you're more gifted at, the things that like God created you more naturally to utilize these gifts. I got bad at missionary and bad at evangelization.
Yeah.
Because it's like, but where did I score high? I scored high in knowledge and in teaching.
Yeah.
And it's like, I had this thing where I kind of felt bad that I wasn't, I was surrounded by people who were great at evangelization, like wanted to go, people more like you, that you're like, I want to go meet people who aren't Catholic, who and go like bring them in, right? And like meet them where they are and like do the basic like proclamation of the gospel. Like, here's who Jesus is. I'm like, y'all go do that and bring them to me.
Yes.
I'll teach them.
It's so awesome.
And then we'll move them forward, right? And that's literally what happened at Parish. Like I started doing Alpha, which is the like, hey, this is the basic teaching of the gospel. Like people could come in and be like, I don't even think God exists. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then we slowly kind of introduce, like, it's the evangelization piece. Yeah. And then I was like, I can do that because of training.
Right.
Like, because I've learned how to do it.
Like muscle memory.
Right, yeah. It's like, I can sing the song. I can, say, Jesus loves you, like, but it's like, that's not what, I didn't feel like my gifts were being utilized there. Whenever they were like, hey, we went through Alpha, now we want to, where do we send them? They need to learn more about this faith that they're saying yes to. And I'm like, I'll do it. Yeah. Please, God, let me do it, because I don't want to keep doing this, So because a lot of me felt bad of like, well, everybody should be evangelizing. Everybody should be.
Right.
And it's like, yes, but evangelization is this umbrella of like sharing the good news and then teaching and then forming people and disciples and walking with them. It's like, that's more where I am. Yeah. Right. So it's like, yes, we all should be evangelizing, but like my main thing is more the teaching and not the evangelization.
Here's an interesting thing. I don't know if this is TMI or any.
Probably is.
Probably. Sometimes not TMI, but just like I don't know, like a corner of my mind that no one needs to care about. So okay, sometimes I think that if I really love something, everyone else does too. Mm-hmm. Like I love it because everyone loves it. Mm-hmm. And so then I feel bad that like I get to do it, but not everyone else gets to do it. And so I think it's fun to see other people's answers. And, if I like, I mean, we need to go through like this and what all the things are. But if I like, being on stage or having a microphone or leading a study or having people at my house, I'm like, that's because everyone likes being on stage and having a microphone and having people at their house and blah, blah, blah.
Nope.
And people are like, no, please do that so that I don't have to. Exactly. I'm going to. And so I just think that it's such a great way to witness a body and that there is someone for everything. Like I feel so bad that I don't want to print the thing off and give it to you. And that the truth is I probably just won't do it because for whatever reason, it's hard for me. I'm not organized. And that other people are like, oh my gosh, this makes me so happy. Can I please organize your closet? And I'm like, you weirdo. Yes, please.
It's very funny. All right, let me see the list. We're going to go through the whole list, and then we'll go through your answer. So I'm going to try to look at it without peeking. Okay.
Oh, wait.
So the whole list. These are the possible gifts.
Okay. You're going to guess what I'm good at?
No. I'm just going to tell everybody.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay. So here are the possible answers that people can get. Yes. Administration, celibacy, craftsmanship, discernment of spirits, encouragement, evangelism, faith, giving, healing, helps, hospitality, intercessory prayer, knowledge, leadership, mercy, missionary, music, pastoring, prophecy, service, teaching, voluntary poverty, wisdom, and writing. That's the whole list.
Yes.
And I've shared mine before, but now that we're revisiting, I'll share mine. But this is the big moment.
I'd like to know yours.
This is the big moment we've all been waiting 3 months for. So typically we look at, every time you do this test, it's like you look at the top 5. So it's not like, oh, I scored higher than you. It's all you scoring against yourself because you're the person that took the test, right? So
right.
You take the test, you add up your answers, and your top 5. Do you have them in order from 5 to 1?
Yes.
Let's do. What is your number 5 gift from the Lord?
Do you feel like you should guess them, or is that boring? Should you guess what my 5 are?
I would think. Let me see the list without looking. I think you would have evangelization.
You can't look at it because.
Well, I have to.
I know.
I think you would have evangelism, writing. I think prophecy. I think those are the main ones that pop out to me.
Okay.
Probably helps. Which is funny, even in the paperwork for the thing, helps is like the person that fills in the holes and helps all the little things get together.
Yeah.
The irony is that there's a page right after this that explains what all the gifts are.
Yeah.
Helps is not listed. Someone with helps
oh my gosh.
needed to help this list.
That's
it's the only one that's missing.
That is
it's very
so funny. Okay.
All right, so that's what I think you have.
Okay.
I gave you like 3 or 4. Those are the ones that pop up the head.
My very highest one. So there were actually 6 top ones because
You're an overachiever.
Because I had 3 13s. So my highest score was a 15.
The highest you can get is 15. Yep.
Okay, so I had a 15 in one that you didn't name, so that's kind of interesting. And then I had 1 14 and then 3 13s. So technically there were 6.
That's fine.
Okay. So my highest one was encouragement.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then my number 14 was writing.
Yeah. That's what I would imagine would be number 1. Primarily, I haven't engaged with much of your writing.
Yeah.
But it's the one you think that, like, not in like a prideful way, but I think it's the one, if you looked at it, like you're much higher on your writing than you are on your speaking. I think I'm higher on your speaking than your writing.
Right.
So like, it's one of those things that I've observed from being outside of your brain.
Well,
but I'm not surprised that it's
however, and that's interesting, but a lot of the questions are arranged to say people have told you that, you know, and so they kind of remove that a little bit. What do you think about? Thing. Yeah.
But I would imagine also that other people have complimented you on your writing, because like I came into your life kind of as you were transitioning from being only a writer into more of a talker, whether on like giving talks or podcasts or whatever. So I think that transition was kind of already happening. Yeah. And so, like I haven't read your book, but I would imagine other people that read your book were like, oh, this is like, you probably got as much compliments on that as you did some of your speaking stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And so encouragement and then writing and then these.
I'm fascinated by the encouragement one. I'm shocked in a similar way, but there's similarities. It's one of my top 5. And people are shocked by it. And I'm often shocked by it because I'm sarcastic and I cut people down and I'm always making jokes at people's expenses. But what I have, so it is a little bit surprising. I'm a little bit surprised it's yours because like most, just thinking about it selfishly from my perspective, it's like, I think most of your encouragement doesn't come directly from you. I get compliments about me that you have said to other people about me.
Funny.
So like, not that I see you as discouraging, but I don't see it as like one of your top ones because it's less direct. I think you're probably more encouraging to
other people besides you, Taylor.
Right. But but it is pretty funny because it's a similar thing with mine where it's like the people that I'm closest with, if I have a relationship with you, I'm going to make fun of you way more than I'm going to make fun of somebody I've met once, right? I'm going to be nice to them.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I intentionally, like I thought this through. I did not bring how I marked myself because I'm like, this is kind of vulnerable and I am not going to be, I allow you to make fun of me in like certain situations, but I'm not allowing him to make fun of me in this. I'm not going to let you make fun of like how I marked myself.
It is really interesting. Both of us, I don't know what other people, I don't know what you're, I would imagine you're pretty encouraging of your kids, and that's most people are with kids. Like that's probably the people I'm most encouraging with is like my kids and the kids I coach and stuff. But it's just I think it's really interesting that you and I have that in common. Yeah, where I think we are very encouraging, probably just not enough to each other.
One of my very favorite things to do is to sit down and like help people determine a path. You know, like it is like, here are the things that I think you're amazing at.
Mhm.
Here are the things that I think that would, you know, fulfill you. So I think the second, well, okay, the second was writing, but the things that tied were evangelism,
That one's not surprising.
wisdom, and faith, which the faith one kind of surprised me. But I think, and not to like kind of secularize it or like de-spiritualize it, but I think that there is an element of optimism to my personality. Like, I just think this is going to work out,
Mhm.
you know, that you could name as faith. Or maybe I've just never seen it as faith. I don't know. That one surprised me.
Faith is one of the ones in this that comes so naturally to the people that it is hard to see when other people don't have it. So like I score very low on faith. It's because it's like, it's harder for me to just, it's harder for me to just believe that things are going to work out.
Yeah.
Because I've been beat down by so many things.
Yeah.
I'm literally watching a show right now, The Bear, incredible show.
I've heard.
It is.
I've been told to watch that a million times.
Like, season 1 was incredible. Season 2 is like required television watching for everyone.
Okay, I love it.
Like,
yes, I'm on it.
And one of the themes of the second season is like, things are better, but we're waiting for the next shoe to drop.
Yeah.
It's like things are like, and that's how I feel all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, even when things are good, I'm like, yeah, but when's the next shoe going to drop? When's that other thing going to happen? And so like, it drives me. Like, it's weird. It's like a good part of my personality because of the lacking. It's like, it's what drives me to like keep working and to like make things work out. But it can tend towards I'm relying on me and less than God. Like, that other people that are as involved in church stuff, it seems to come more naturally to them than to me. So it's I'm not surprised that you have that one. Or I'm not surprised that it's higher than me. That was pretty easy for me.
Yeah. Do you want to know? Okay, so I love this, that you thought prophecy would be up there.
Yeah, I think so. Essentially,
I love
what
that.
prophecy is, like, most people that hear it, it's like, it's not predicting the future, right? But it is hearing something from the Lord.
Yeah.
And saying this needs to be shared at this time, at this moment, with this group of people.
Yeah.
So I think for me, so there's a lot of things that go into the gift of teaching and preaching. Like, there's even a lot on this list. Like, there's the wisdom, like the deep knowledge. There's knowledge of like, just I know these things and I can share them. There's literally one called teaching. But what was the one that we were talking about?
I was interested in
the one you just mentioned.
Prophecy,
yeah. So essentially, I think while you're good at a lot of aspects of speaking, I think the biggest thing of your speaking is it comes from like a depth in your heart. Like, it came from your internal prayer, your internal walk with God, and you're able to communicate that with other people. Like, this is what the Lord is saying for this moment.
Yeah.
Where I think I'm like pretty technically good at a lot of the other aspects of speaking.
Yeah.
But prophecy isn't a higher one for me.
Yeah.
Like, mine, I think, can be a little bit more technical and like, this has worked in the past, so I'm going to do it again.
Right.
Where yours, I think you're probably a little bit more attuned to like, this is what's going on right now, and this is what this group of people need to hear. So
this word isn't on this list, but I think that it's probably most closely related to prophecy, which I thought this word would be on this list, and I thought that I would score really, really high, and it's intuition. Like, that's it. Right. Yeah. And so, because I agree with everything you just said, and I would maybe name it, I don't think of that as like prophecy, but the way that the questions are asked, it's a lot of determining a moment or like feeling a moment. And I feel really high in that. But what was actually higher than that, I had zero knowledge, by the way. Like, knowledge was like,
really? Yeah. I don't have
which
the paper
is interesting because of wisdom.
Wisdom's so high.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
And I think that actually kind of goes along with what I'm saying.
Yes,
like,
I agree.
I think that like, I'm just because both of us have spoke on a pretty high level. And it's like, I think like one of the things I've always messed with you about your notes. Yeah. Like, you always have your notes, and I'm just like, just let it fly. Like, you're good at this, right? But I never made the connection until just now that like, you are trying to protect, like, this is something that I heard and I feel like needs to be communicated perfectly.
Very clearly, yeah.
Where I am knowledge is one of my top 5, where I'm like, I know the
this
things. Isn't coming from a depth of the thing. This is just like, it's just here. So like, I think
I feel like I've been trying to explain that forever. But that's a better way to say it all. Yeah.
And it's like, I could be wrong, but I think I might be a little bit better technical of a speaker than you are.
Right.
But yours can often hit harder because it comes from this
of
depth
the
of
that's
of,
it's
of
interesting.
the message. Yeah.
It's interesting all that goes into one thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay. So high in wisdom and like mediocre in prophecy, but I think together, those two things coming together to make intuition is probably, anyway. And
just
then
too secular of a word. We couldn't have that on the
I know,
Holy
right?
Spirit
Do you
gift
want to know
test.
what I really stink at? Oh, and helps and hospitality helps, hospitality and teaching and leadership were really close.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me
Like,
at all.
yeah.
Kind of like that there's that next tier, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like a lot of it comes from it's this kind of it's like the top 5 are typically like these are the gifts that God really gave you and that he
like
really wants you to be using, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that next group, especially for people like you and I that have been working in ministry for a while,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that next list might possibly be, this isn't my natural gifting, but people have said that I do this well.
Yeah.
Because I've had to do this.
Right.
I've
Yeah,
had
exactly.
to be hospitable because you have seen that the Catholic Church is not as hospitable as like your Protestant churches from your past, right?
Interesting.
You have had to help because you've seen that
Mm-hmm.
there's been places in our community that need to be helped, right? So a lot of those is like, yes, there's some gift, not saying that you're not gifted. There is some gifting there, but that second group is a lot of like, I've just been doing these. People have been saying that I've been doing them, but I really should be doing these.
Well,
top
and
5
even with leadership, I would love to follow a good leader. If there isn't one, I'll try to be that. But I enjoy a great boss. You know, I'm a good employee if the boss is great.
As long as the boss only tells me stuff that I want to do.
If by my determination you're doing a good job.
Exactly.
Okay, so do you want to know the things that I have 0 of?
Sure. Legitimately 0?
Like 0.
Okay.
Administration and celibacy.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
And craftsmanship.
Administration doesn't surprise me at all because how we set this conversation up. Celibacy doesn't surprise me at all after what happened last episode. What was the other third one?
Craftsmanship. Don't make me make anything. I don't want to make anything.
So like stuff for the kids'
It talks
school,
about well, I mean, the way that the questions were asked in the test, it's like the things that I create are pleasing to me, like. And it sounds like it's pretty physical, you know, like the things that I create, like with my hands.
I guess I'm surprised. Like one of the things I scored very low on that one too, and because it's an older test, it was before like the digital age. Like you literally create stuff that gets millions of views on TikTok, right? So I think.
Oh, interesting.
I think that is like I'm constantly creating things like podcast videos, digital stuff.
Yeah.
And I got a 0 or a 1, I think, on that.
So the test just needs to be updated a little.
I think, it's just because it's an older test.
Interesting.
So that's like the one part of this test that I think didn't come with the times. Yeah. Everything else is like literally timeless. Like
any
knowledge,
success,
wisdom, prophecy, those are timeless.
Right. Any success though in social media realms has always been about the prophecy, intuition, wisdom thing. Because it's being able to kind of guess what's gonna hit with people.
And that's what I don't have. I know technically how to do it. I just don't know how to go viral because no one cares what I have to say.
And then I had 0 music. Dogs howl, babies cry.
Yeah, that one doesn't surprise me at all. That's one of my 15s.
And then another like really low but not abysmal was healing. So yeah.
Okay, what do you think my top 5 are? I told you a couple. So this is more of a test of if you've been paying attention than
okay, so I think you know what I was really high at was a mercy. So
very ironic that I asked you a question about me and then you said, actually, let me tell you how merciful I am.
Just a moment. More me. Okay, I think that you are discernment of spirits. That's interesting. Okay, sorry. I forgot that one was on there. I think that you are probably pretty high in teaching.
Yep, that's a 15.
Knowledge.
Yeah, it's a 14 or 15. Yep.
Teaching, knowledge.
People are yelling at
pastoring
their phones right
up
now.
there?
Yeah. It's the number one that like whenever I took this test again more recently, it is the thing that I was whenever COVID hit, because I was pastoring youth. I was pastoring youth ministers, and then COVID hit, and I just started doing the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And pastoring was gone. I had nobody that I was walking with because my whole life changed.
Yeah.
And that's why things like Foundations have been so life-giving to my own faith, because I'm finally using this pastoring gift again.
Okay. And then I've got music.
Yep.
Helps.
No, absolutely not.
No helps.
No.
Okay. And
I told you the 5th one. You've got 4. I told you the 5th one already in this conversation. It's one of yours. It's the surprising one.
Oh, yeah, right.
Encouragement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I encourage you.
I reject that.
You're an old woman. That was like the biggest revelation for me. I think, well, the 2 big ones that I already talked about. It's like just how this all fits together.
Yeah.
Like how, like, it was cool to see literally in a room of people, like we're just 2 people talking about how like we have some in common, which is probably why we click. We have some very much different, which is probably why we've argued in the past. And we also have some in the middle that are just like, oh, that's cool that you have that one. It's cool that it kind of fills a hole that I have or whatever. Mm-hmm. The second thing was that it was kind of a shot in the arm of like, maybe you should be a little bit more encouraging, because like God's giving you this gift and maybe you're not utilizing it to the fullness of its like ability. But at the same time, it was I did this in a group of people, and when I took it again, I took it in college, and I took it again, 8 years later, and somebody in the room, one of my really good friends who I love, just because he knew me and had insight, he was like, you make fun of me at any moment. But this is when we worked together, and I was his supervisor, his mentor. And he's like, but anytime I've had a problem with life, work, whatever, you're the first person I go to. And it's like, it was that I'm very encouraging in the moments that people need it. And then whenever we're in a playful time where you don't need it, I'm going to mess with you a little bit more. And I think about that with coaching too. It's like, I can come off as very mean in coaching at times. I think overall I'm not, but like I can come off as mean at times because it's like what I'm actually doing is encouraging you to be better, even if it sounds like I'm putting you down or whatever. So that was just interesting for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. Glad you made me do it.
I'm honestly just shocked that you did it.
I am appreciative of your leadership.
You're welcome.
Are you not? Is leadership on yours?
It's like that next tier.
Next
tier, yeah. I would much rather pastor than be a leader. I think it's kind of the differentiator there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, those are more similar than I would have thought.
I think it's so linked in our church. Like we typically think of like our priests are literally the pastors, like they're literally the pastoral leadership, and they're also the people that we look to as leaders. And there can be a little bit of difference, right? Like I've been a big proponent of like on the business stuff, like every parish should have a business person that's like the business leader. So the priest can be more the pastor.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's good.
But okay, get your list out again. I have one more question about this that was really interesting for me. So some of my lowest ones.
Yes.
One of my lowest ones, we already talked about faith. Intercessory prayer was like a 1 for me.
Yeah.
And I think those 2 in particular, maybe even celibacy, like these things that seem to come easy for other people, has been like a little bit more difficult for me. The holiest people, like when I see holiness, it is people who have what I lack completely.
Right.
So like,
isn't that interesting?
I think of holiness, even now. I mean, even revisiting this, I'm like, I still think this. I've tried to get over it, but I still kind of struggle with it. If people are good at praying for other people, somebody asks you to pray for them and then they pray for them. Like it's become a running joke on the show. Is like every time I say that I'm bad at intercessory prayer, I get like 40 prayer requests from people that listen, and then I'm like, okay, I'll pray for you. Fine. But I'm bad at that. And especially I said intercessory prayer and faith. Like I feel completely unholy.
Yeah.
Because the holiest people in my life have a ton of faith and are great at intercessory prayer and seem to have this great relationship with intimate relationship with Jesus, where I'm more like, I don't know, you gave me the gifts where I'm like, oh, I work for you, so I'm gonna go work for you. So which ones on here that you lack in? Like, do you have a similar thing, or am I just crazy?
Yeah, no, I think that it's a really interesting point, because because I'm just me, I'm definitely like not dazzled by myself in any way. So any sort of like
I'm constantly dazzled by myself.
But the opposite of me is what I'm kind of like. I've always wanted this like sweet, gentle spirit. And so for me, there's like a meekness and a servanthood, a softness, and so a poverty even. Somebody who is just constantly giving things away, doesn't need very much. The prayer is hard for me, like being still and actually doing something. So it's a stillness, it's a poverty, it's a servanthood in a way that I might serve people, but I don't see, because it's so fun for me, I don't see it as service, because we all think that holiness is supposed to be drudgery.
Right.
And it's such a lie. It's such a lie from an enemy. Holiness is freedom. And I think that our biggest like hang up with, or not hang up with these, but like the potential danger of stuff like this is taking something and seeing what you're good at and then seeing what you're bad at and looking at the things that you're really bad at and being like, oh, that's not me. I don't have to do that. You know, as opposed to, I loved what you said about, oh, this showed up as a gifting of mine and maybe I'm not leaning into that enough. I'm going to use this as a call to be better, to do more. And so I love that. Like just because I had to like cross it off because I got a 0 doesn't mean that it's not important. I can still try to imitate it. I can still try to learn from those people that I do look at as to me, like Meg Hunter Kilmer is just like living life right, man. You know, there is, and so she's holy in a different way.
Hobo
than
driving
me.
a car from place to place, taking wherever the Lord guides her.
The way that woman prays for me is just so inspirational. And so that doesn't mean.
Oh, you're tearing up. It's very sweet.
What?
You're tearing up. It's very sweet. Your eyes are very shiny.
Yeah. But honestly, like the missionary thing that you were talking about. So
I was a professional missionary and I got like a 1 on missionary.
It cracks me up so much. So anyways, I just think that there's good balance to being able to look at things that we see as holy, not completely dismiss ourselves because it's not us, but then not discount it either because it's not us. Right. You know, there it's just the balance.
It's cool. It's like, and it's like, yes, I should be praying more. I should be trying to grow in faith, but like how God created me, if I'm living holiness, it's when I'm using these gifts of knowledge and teaching and music and encouragement. And like, that's what holiness looks like for me. And holiness is going to look different for me. Like, just look at our saints. We had some saints who had, like Saint Jerome is a saint who's grumpy and said mean things to people. It's like, I can do that. But when there's other ones who are like, Teresa Lisieux, I cannot.
Right.
There's nothing about her that is the same as me, except the fact that we went to the same church. Like there's nothing else that we have in common.
Yeah.
You know? But we all like you can look at us at pick any saint and they have a different top 5 combination. Yeah. So good. I'm glad you did it. This was fun.
Thanks.
All right. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. A year ago, we started our Forte Catholic Renew retreats, and we have done 4 men's retreats already. We have 2 more coming up this fall, and we have our first ever women's retreat run by my wife. We're very excited about this. These retreats, how we pitch them is that they are 50-50 retreat and hanging out with other Catholic men or women, respectively. So we are hosting these in Southern Louisiana in Hackberry, this beautiful 4,000 square foot house. Almost said 4,000 acre house. That'd be huge. 4,000 square foot house. It is lovely. So especially if you're in the like Texas, Louisiana area and want to come on retreat with us, even if you're from far away, we have worked out before where people fly in and we come pick them up from the airport. We would love to have you guys on retreat with us. We have one coming up in August. For the men, August 24th through 27th. We have another one for the men, October 26th through 29th. And for the women's one, we just had to move the dates, but it's September 28th through October 1st. So if you were interested in joining us, you can check out more at fortecatholic.com or just shoot me an email, text message, respond to the show, whatever. We'd love to get you guys on retreat with us. They've been an absolute blast, and they've been, I think, helping people kind of get away and kind of get in touch with God and have a good time doing it. So let us know. ForteCatholic.com/retreats. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll, and I'm here with Nick Senz because of something that we happened upon together on Twitter. And by together, I mean I did one thing, and then he spent hours doing a lot of work, and now we're going to talk about it. What's up, Nick?
How's it going?
Pretty good. We had this whole thing before we started recording. I feel like I know both you and your wife, and apparently it's just completely unfounded. Like, we've never met, we've only interacted on the internet, but I just feel familiar with both of you, and it feels like I'm talking to an old friend that I've never talked to before.
Well, I'm honored for that. I get that all the time. People say to me, "I know someone that looks just like you," or different things like that. Go figure.
Yeah, that's very funny. So we've been following each other on Twitter for quite some time. And just the other day, you said, "I try not to comment on things I'm not informed about. That's why I'm basically a Catholicism and NBA account." Because, as is often to happen on Twitter or anywhere on the internet, people become they think they have a master's degree in whatever the topic of the day is, right? And this was one of those particular days where everyone they had a master's degree in the topic, and then the topic changed, and somehow they had a doctorate in the next topic. So I liked the simplicity of, you're like, "I know Catholicism and I know NBA." So I replied and I said, "Please give me a list comparing NBA legends or stars to saints, like to Catholic saints. Let's use this weird combination of expertise that you actually do have." And I was joking. I was actually like, you work at a parish. I used to work at this parish, and now I'm still running a ministry at the parish. I was actually, while this Twitter exchange was going on, we had this interaction. I went and ran my parish thing, and then I came back to, you had been doing this for hours. You've been comparing Catholic saints to NBA superstars, and I couldn't have been more happy about it.
You had no idea what you were saying.
I really didn't. So I'll give one example. This was your first example, and this is where I was hooked. You said St. Thomas Aquinas. So here's what we're doing. We're taking Catholic saints, and maybe you're listening to this and you know a lot about Catholic saints, but not a bunch about the NBA. You're going to learn a lot about NBA players today. But maybe you're like most normal human beings and you know more about NBA players than saints. And like me, you're going to learn a little bit about these saints because I've told people here forever that my biggest gap in my knowledge of Catholicism is the saints. I think it's because I grew up Catholic, but I kind of had my conversion in a lot of Protestant circles, and they don't talk about the saints much. So it was never a super highlight. But I love this. This is going to get me into the saints. So your first one, you were comparing St. Thomas Aquinas to who and why?
To Nikola Jokic, right? This was the first one that popped in my mind when you issued this challenge, right? So I remembered Jokic in this interview he had with Malik Andrews after winning the championship this year. He said, "Don't bet against the fat boy." This is Jokic.
I didn't realize that was a real quote. I thought that was your quote.
No, he said this. He's got this great, Serbian sense of humor, right? So he was like a chubby kid growing up. He's, drafted 41st famously during a Taco Bell commercial.
Bong.
Right? Thank you. I thought the Undertaker was coming in for a minute. I was confused for a sec. Right. So
how often does that happen to you that's what you were worried about?
Another subject for another day. So Thomas Aquinas, right? Famously, he shows up to the University of Paris as a young Dominican student brother, and he gets nicknamed the Dumb Ox because he never speaks in class, and he's kind of a big feller. Now, it depends on who you ask. Some icons you'll see of Aquinas, he is a somewhat portly fellow. If you ask Dominicans, they talk about him like he's Brock Lesnar or something, right? They're like, there's stories of him picking up an ox cart when the ox broke his leg, and he was built. Either way, so Aquinas.
People have that same confusion about me. They're like, is he strong or fat? We're not really sure.
Right. So both Aquinas and Jokic, right, they're a little underrated in their early days, right? But as Aquinas' teacher, St. Albert the Great, said, "This dumb ox is going to bellow so loudly someday the whole world will hear." And likewise with Jokic, right? He is drafted in the middle of the second round, two-time MVP, now NBA champion. So, right, as Jokic said, don't bet against the fat boy, right? We can underestimate people sometimes.
Yeah. Who said that about the dumb ox? Who said that he was going to bellow so loudly?
Oh, Saint Albert the Great, who was Aquinas'
Really?
teacher there at Paris.
No way. So he got I never heard that part of the story. So I heard the dumb ox thing because I've been called that multiple times, and I'm again not sure whether to take it as a diss because they think I'm a dumb ox or a compliment because I'm more like St. Thomas Aquinas than people want to give me credit for. I was just never sure, but I didn't realize that like somebody saw it in him. That's really cool. That's a cool little addition to the story for me.
Yeah.
You and I continued our Jokic conversation a few days later. I think he's incredible. Like, I acknowledge that he's a superstar. The Houston kid in me is reminded a lot of Tim Duncan. Like, I hated Tim Duncan because I was a Houston kid and San Antonio was right down the road. They were our rivals. And like incredibly fundamental, great at basketball, great basketball player. Just boring, and I didn't really like him. I don't have the not liking him thing with Jokic. I just think he's really boring. Like, he's just a large white man, which isn't the most exhilarating of basketball players, but he's so incredibly talented. And I think a little part of me is like, I have no ill will towards him like I did for Tim Duncan. But like, I was really rooting for Miami, so I think there's a little bit of part of me that, like, I mean, I didn't not like him, but I did root against him for a week or whatever. So it didn't last very long. It wasn't a full 2 weeks that I was rooting against him.
He is one of the best passers ever. Like, when I'm having a rough day, I'll just pull up video of Jokic throwing alley-oops to Aaron Gordon for like 10 minutes. It's like a weighted blanket for your eyes. You know, it's beautiful.
I also pull up Aaron Gordon highlights, but that's because that's the kind of player that I like. Although he's not as great as Jokic, but okay. So that's our first one. I mean, you went on like do you know how many of these you did? It looked like at least 30 or 40, huh?
I lost count. You know.
All right, so let's do some of your favorites. We can go through it here in a little bit, but
Sure.
you know, people are learning a little bit about the NBA. I'm learning. I mean, I already learned about the St. Albert the Great. I had no idea who had any connection to Thomas Aquinas, but that's the other thing I was going to say. The other connection that I have with Jokic, how I said like he's great, but like I wasn't super into him. Like, I feel pretty similar with St. Thomas Aquinas. It's like I feel like the really smart people in my life are the people that like him. But ironic, so I've never like read the Summa, and I know like every trad that there's been a thing about podcasts recently that everybody has books behind them. I don't have books. This is just a wall that has any layer of anything I want behind it, you know? So I'm not really an Aquinas person, but I actually ended up reading an article by Aquinas yesterday because I got asked a very random question about the Mass, and the only answer came from Aquinas. So we've opened the door a little bit, maybe to my Jokic and my Aquinas love.
There you go.
What are some of your other favorite connections that you made?
Okay. I really like the one. So we have Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, right? Start off as rivals, come to the NBA at the same time. But they actually develop a friendship over time. I compare that to St. Dominic and St. Francis, right? So similarly, both starting these new religious orders around the same time, kind of in a similar way to how the NBA was in a bad way in the 70s. You know, there's drug problems all over the place in the league, and the league's kind of in chaos, and Larry and Magic really helped to save the league in a lot of ways. Kind of similarly, the birth of these new mendicant orders, the Franciscans and the Dominicans, really leads to this flourishing of the life of the church in the 1200s. And Dominic and Francis kind of famously, they're held up together, you know. Dominicans and Franciscans actually still today, they will refer to each other's founder as Holy Father such and such, right?
Oh, that's
Franciscans
so cool.
will call Dominic Holy Father Dominic, and likewise. So even though they're still sometimes kind of rivals, you know, the Franciscan school of theology, the Dominican school of theology, they still have this great respect for each other. Even as, you know, Celtics and Lakers fans, there's still this begrudging, you know, like someone like Bill Simmons, you know, who's the diehard Celtics fan, he loves Magic Johnson and has like great reverence for him.
Right.
And, you know, vice versa. So I thought that was an interesting parallel.
I remember seeing this one, and I was like, it was the first one that was like a duo for a duo. And I thought, I think it's perfect for like the two of them kind of starting together and like kind of saving the league, and like, I mean, kind of saving the church, like the whole, both of them at a time where reform was needed, and both of them brought about reform. And I think it's one thing I didn't think about when I was just reading the tweet, and now I'm trying to see is which one's which. And I don't know if you even intended to say which one's which, but no. It's funny for me because the only correlation that I have on either side is that growing up, I was a huge Larry Bird fan because I was the only person who looked like Larry Bird on almost every basketball court that I was on. So I got called Larry Bird or Dirk almost everywhere that I went. But the older I got, the more I started watching Magic. And I was like, as I kind of like, I actually started appreciating Magic a little bit more. Similarly, that's a hard word for me. I kind of grew up I like everybody else my age. I had a big conversion at a Franciscan Steubenville conference, so there's a lot of Franciscan connection. But then as I've gotten older, I like the preaching a little bit more. So I'm starting to kind of turn over to the Dominicans a little bit. So whether you meant for there to be a one-to-one corollary, I have gone from one side to the other over the course of my life on both ends of those spectrums.
Oh, that's funny. See, I went to a Dominican graduate school, so I'm, very well versed in that. And for a time, I kind of turned my nose up to the Franciscan school, like, cotton candy. And then, I was doing another project and started reading more Bonaventure and thought, this is great. What have I been ignoring this for all of my life? So yeah, it's funny, right? You have kind of these two poles that you can go back and forth between.
Yeah, I like Bonaventure because he's the patron saint of stomach issues, and I have those a lot because of the old St. Thomas Aquinas tummy.
There's something for everything, right?
Exactly. All right, let's do the next one. What else you got?
All right. No, even though he's not a saint, or Origen, the great biblical scholar of Alexandria. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, when Pope Benedict did his series of catecheses on the church fathers, he threw Origen in there because you have to, right? He invented the whole notion of the spiritual sense of Scripture, right? Everybody followed him in what he did, on afterwards. Everyone's approach to Scripture follows how Origen approached Scripture. I compare him to Dr. J, right? The whole above the rim approach, right? Like when people our age, we kind of looked at Michael Jordan as kind of the OG.
Right.
Who does Jordan see as the OG? He's like, Dr. J was his idol, right? Everyone wanted to play above the rim, right? Like Dr. J did. So thought that was a kind of interesting parallel.
I like that one a lot. I was trying to find, I know that I quote Origen in one of my talks, and I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was. So I was trying to find it, but I like Origen. He's, like when we look at the church fathers, he was one of the more prolific writers. Like we have a lot of his writings, and like the whole reason he's not a saint is there was some things. It's one of those things that how like people. This is like the early precursor to canceling somebody for something they tweeted in 2004. It's like Origen wrote all this good stuff, and then he wrote some things that we now know are heretical, but nobody knew it at the time because we didn't have 2,000 years of theology and writings and church. Like he was there at the cusp. So I actually appreciate the Dr. J comparison because he brought some new things to the league. They him and many other people, they literally made rules in the NBA to stop people like that. So I like that a lot. It's a very good comparison. Good old Origen. I like Origen getting some love because I quote him on purpose. I don't know why I can't think of his quote that I use pretty often, but I quote him on purpose because I like him because there's kind of that rebel. It's like, I'm Catholic, but also kind of on the outside,
Right. I know he writes his book on first principles basically aimed towards the Gnostic heretics who had this whole like alternate cosmology, like a multiverse thing going on. It's weird. And so he says, I'm going to take your stuff, I'm going to twist it around, I'm going to try to actually bring it back into a more orthodox key. But yeah, he wasn't afraid to do things like that. And Dr. J, I was on from the free throw line.
Yeah. Now I know why Origen isn't considered a saint. It's because he dealt with the multiverse. And anybody that's been watching Marvel knows that the multiverse is not a thing that you want to mess with because it ruins everything.
True.
All right, let's do a couple more. Let's do a few more of your favorites.
Yeah, some of these I think might require a little explanation, right? So I said Saint Cyril of Alexandria, compare him to John Stockton, right?
Okay, I know nothing about Cyril of Alexandria. So I know John Stockton, the assist king, another white person that I was compared to every now and then. So why Saint Cyril of Alexandria?
See, both of them, I said, know how to use a crafty move to win, right? So Stockton was sometimes called the dirty player. Right? Now, he would just do little things like, I remember one time old John Stockton playing against young Jason Williams, White Chocolate. And Stockton, he just kind of holds his arm out there, his off arm, enough to kind of put it in where Williams would grab it, trying to get around him and like pick up the foul call. I remember, this is like 25 years ago, but I remember the announcer saying, "Crafty veteran move. Hey kid, grab my arm. Thank you very much." So Cyril of Alexandria is church father, right? He's present there at the oh gosh, now I'm going to get this wrong as we're recording for everyone. At the Council of Ephesus in 431, right? So he is responding to
great pull, by the way, to like doubt yourself and then get the correct year and location. That's great. That was awesome.
I sure hope so. Right? So he's responding to Nestorius, right? Nestorius, and he had exchanged these letters. Nestorius was denying the title Mother of God to Mary, saying that Mary did not give
very
birth
timely.
To God.
This is what's going on Twitter right now. Very timely.
Right? There's the whole anti-Mary stuff going around right now, right? Yeah. But Nestorius had said, "I will not call her the mother of God. She gave birth to the humanity of Jesus, which then was joined to the divinity." So he's splitting Jesus into two, as if he were two persons kind of glued together. And Cyril fought back against this. Now they call a church council to settle this dispute. One group of bishops kind of gets together and then tries to hold their own council. The Pope knocks that down. Cyril gets his team together first and almost kind of holds the council before the rest of the group gets there and kind of lays everything out. Says, "All right, here's what we need to do. Here's the truth of things. Oh, thanks for showing up now, guys. We've already done it. Thanks very much." Right?
Crafty veteran move. That's awesome. I love that. And that's one of the reasons that I love this is like whenever you're doing the first few, it's like, okay, this is a player I'm very familiar with and a saint I'm not familiar with. I might have heard that story, I don't know, 20 years ago, but I don't know. So it's very good. It's bringing up a lot of new saints for me, which I enjoy. And this, like, you don't understand what you've unlocked for me. Like now, every time I look at a saint that I don't know anything about, I'm going to be like, are they more like Carmelo Anthony or more like LeBron James? I'm not really sure here.
I couldn't come up with a good LeBron one. I was batting it around back and forth.
Who's the greatest saint of all time?
And now we're going to get into the whole LeBron MJ thing.
Yeah, exactly.
My position there is that Jordan's the greatest player, but LeBron's the best player. Because when you look at the all-around skill set, right, LeBron's a better passer than Jordan was. He's a better rebounder, I'd say, than Jordan was. If you look at the various different skills, say LeBron is the more skilled player. He's the best basketball player. But when it comes to dominance, right, then MJ's got him. So that was a tough one. I went with Augustine for the GOAT, right? Augustine's Jordan because he's the GOAT, right?
And ironically enough, with Augustine, he's a little bit different. Augustine, we know famously, got a lot of sin and debauchery and then became great. Jordan did the opposite. He became great and then retired and went and got a bunch of sin and debauchery.
It's like the whole conspiracy theory that he didn't actually retire, but he was like pseudo suspended by the league for gambling issues or things like that.
Yeah,
right.
Very funny. Yeah. Very funny. Okay, let's do one more. We got to do one more, and then we'll head out of here. What are your other favorites?
So hard to choose. Okay, I'm going.
Wait, let's do this.
Okay.
If you have a lot that you like, let's just list 4 or 5 that you really like. Don't explain them at all, and then end with one that you're explaining.
All right. I like Cyril and Methodius, Saint Cyril and Methodius, comparing them to Arvidas Sabonis and Saronis Marcellonis. Look those up. Hard to say. St. Patrick and Kobe Bryant, Mamba mentality. That's all you need to say. Right?
There you go.
Andre Bassett and Pistol Pete Maravich, miracle workers. Right. St. Christopher and Wilt Chamberlain. The more stories I hear about them, the less sure I am that they're actually real.
This one got me because my oldest son is named Christopher. Because that was my confirmation saint, and this one hurt just a little bit.
No harm intended.
Yeah.
St. Nicholas and Draymond Green, they both get a little punchy at times.
They do. I'm much more of a fan of St. Nicholas than I am Draymond Green. Let's put it that way.
I compare, there are a lot of groups of martyrs that they'll pick one and then say, and companions, right? Like St. Charles the Wanga and companions.
Right.
Right. So I compare that to like the other guys on the 96 Bulls, right? Luke Longley, Tony Kukoc, Steve Kerr, Judd Buchler. They are the and companions.
Yeah. The way they got carried to multiple championships is the only way I'm going to get carried to heaven is by being one of those and companions with some holy person around me in my life.
Right. I think the last one I'll mention here is St. Jerome and Charles Barkley. Right. Barkley famously says, I am not a role model. And I think St. Jerome is that saint that people always point to say, hey, we have grouchy saints. We have sharp-tongued saints. Right. We have saints who, if they had to go through the modern canonization process and that whole, model, what is the phrase that they use? Heroic virtue, right? The model of heroic virtue. Maybe not Jerome's strongest point.
To be fair with Jerome, when he had virtue, it seemed even more heroic. So,
Fair point.
I love Charles Barkley, and it's a great place to end because of where we started and talking about my Houston and San Antonio rivalry. He said a lot of mean things about San Antonio, so it's a great place to end. This was so much fun. I love this so much. I honestly, we could do a whole show with all these ones that you saw. We can. If you want, we'll retweet it and stuff whenever the show comes out. But this was about a week ago or whatever. So you can go follow Nick Senz, and it's just your name, NickSenz, over on Twitter. If you only want to hear about Catholicism and the NBA, and it's funny, ever since we had this interaction, you've been like popping up more and more in my feed, and I've been appreciating more and more how all you tweet about is Catholicism and the NBA. So
I try to stay consistent.
You've picked a 2-lane road and you're just sticking on it. You like swerve into one lane and then the other. So Nick, this was great. Thanks so much for doing that. I could not imagine that it was going to go this well when I sent out one just like offhand tweet hoping I'd get something out of it. And I got way more than I expected. It was awesome. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. A few years ago, Forte Catholic became a nonprofit organization, and we have been living off of the generosity of donors, like just people just like you, ever since that we began. Recently, we've had a few people kind of run into some financial, rough times or whatever, and they've had to stop giving. So we are in a place where we are needing some more monthly donations. People have set up $5 a month, $20 a month, $100 a month, $50 a month, $250 a month. We have people that run the gamut of donations. Our monthly donors are really like the bedrock of why we're able to do what we do, to create these podcasts, create videos, to travel and speak and lead worship and all that stuff. Our primary income is through the generous support of people who listen to the show and enjoy it, family, friends, that sort of thing. So if you are in a place where you have a little bit extra cash and you want to tithe towards something Catholic, you can do so at fortecatholic.com/donate. It's really easy to set up. It's on PayPal. You can use you can do a one-time donation, or you can join that monthly support group. We'd really, really appreciate it so we can continue doing the work that we are doing. We're very, very happy to be doing what we're doing, and we just need your help to make ends meet. We've lost a couple, like $100 to $300, about $300 a month in monthly donors in the last couple of months. So we could really use your help to bridge that gap. fortecatholic.com/donate. Thank you guys so much and enjoy the rest of the show. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. That is Allison Sullivan back in the saddle. I have been, not only did you do your homework for this episode,
yes,
but I have been feeling over the last couple of months where it was just like, I think it was a balance between, we were all busy, like me and all the co-hosts were busy.
Yeah.
Where it was like, there was less, it seemed like there were less ideas coming from the co-hosts and a lot more of me talking. And it was like this thing of like where it was this weird, it had kind of happened naturally. I was talking more because I was thinking up of more topics that like maybe the co-host didn't connect with as much. So I was like, I found myself talking too much, but then I had this idea of like, I'm also the one preparing. So I had this idea that will solve one of those problems, but not the other. I'm not in charge of today's show at all. You led it with your test taking. You're also just going to ask me a bunch of random questions, which will not solve the problem of me talking too much.
Right.
But it will solve the problem of I didn't prepare anything. And you don't like being surprised on the show. So I'm giving you a chance to surprise me on the show. Awesome. I have no idea what you're about to ask me.
Okay, great. So every now and then on my own show. I think it's really fun.
I'm wearing the shirt right now for those of you
Yay!
watching on. I love wearing the shirt in public.
I'm sure.
I'm a 6'2", bald, bearded, 280-pound white man wearing a shirt that says Sinner, Saint, Sister. People look at me like, what? I'm not going to ask. And I'm like, good, you shouldn't.
Google it.
It does the opposite of promoting your show. No one hears about your show because no one asks me about it.
That's hilarious. So every now and then I think it's fun to kind of introduce a guest per season. I'm like maybe try to do it once per season where it's more of like a 20 questions format because the answers are always just a little bit surprising. And then I end up kind of thinking about the answers myself. And then I kind of surprise myself. And then guests are doing the same. And it's just a fun way to like rope everybody together. Okay, here we go. I'm going to ask you a few questions and I just want honesty. I have a feeling I'll get it. All right.
I hope so.
What is something, Taylor, that you would change about yourself if you could?
Everything that I just mentioned before I said I was wearing your shirt, I wish was different.
You were?
I wish I was 6'6". I wish I was black. I wish I had hair. I wish I wasn't 280 pounds. What else did I say? I think that's it.
Oh my gosh.
I wish I was a different person.
You wish you were a completely different. Okay, you just named a bunch of physical things though.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about like internally?
Oh, I see. I don't think that. I would think deeper about myself. That's what I would change.
Perfect. Well done. Okay. What is something that motivates you specifically to work hard? What motivates you?
Checklists, not failing, being the best. I hate making mistakes. I hate when somebody's like, "Hey, you made this mistake." I hate when like people point out that I did something wrong. I hate when like a friend of mine very kindly told me the last episode that you and I recorded together that I was doing this when I was talking in the mic and I was moving my head so much. I've been locked in this episode. I'm talking right into this microphone because I'm not mad that he said it. I'm mad that I made the mistake. Right.
Yeah. Right.
I was glad he pointed it out because it's like I needed the reminder.
Yeah.
Perfection.
Yeah.
To a good degree and a negative degree. Is what drives me.
It surprises me what a perfectionist you are, but that is certainly true.
I mean, looking at me, it would be surprise anyone that I'm a perfectionist in anything.
So if you could create a perfect day that is like, that was the best day ever, what would it include and what would it definitely exclude?
It would definitely be a great night's sleep in my new bed that we just got. I'm sleeping tremendously. One thing, like right now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that like my kids aren't here, and like we're having this like the kids are there having a great time with my family. Mm-hmm. My wife and here are just the two of us for the next 4 days or whatever, and it's like I miss my kids when they're gone. I really like my kids. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of people would say like, oh, it's just me and my wife going to Vegas and having a great day or whatever. It's like, I want my kids there. Not for the whole time. I'm not ridiculous, right? But like I'd sleep in, hang out with the kids. We've been watching Star Wars Visions, which like it's these anime people watch. We'd watch a couple episodes of that. We'd probably play a game on TV, and then we'd send them away. Sam and I would go to I love nice food, like of anything that I could do that was expensive. It would be food. Like a lot of people like expensive travel, or expensive houses, or expensive cars, or whatever. Like food's where it's at for me, which is probably why I like the bear so much. Expensive food. We'd if it was possible to do all of that while we were here, and like go to some cool location, we'd fly private to some, if money wasn't an issue, fly private to some beach or whatever. We'd hang out there and probably stay there for like the rest of the night or whatever. Yeah. That's probably it.
I love that. That's a great day. Okay. What would it definitely exclude?
Oh, you.
I don't want to go to your fancy restaurant.
No, I'm kidding.
I'll hang out with your kids. I'll be the one that takes your kids when you're done with them.
One of my meals would be just Sam and I. The other meal would be with a bunch of our friends, like having you and your husband there, or having some of our friends in there. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Okay, but
definitely, that's a great question. I made the joke. I don't know what it would exclude, because it's like a lot of people would say
waking up early.
Waking up early for sure. Yeah. I solved that by saying I slept in already. I think a lot of people would say work. I actually like my work. Maybe I wouldn't do a full day's work. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might
No,
record a podcast.
That's great.
Or I might publish something or whatever. I like that.
Yeah. That's a great sign that you're like doing the right thing. Cause I feel the same way. Like my perfect day includes like something written, you know, like something created.
Wouldn't work for 10 hours like I normally do, but I'd work for a little bit.
A good solid hour of something you're proud of.
Exclude. It's a great question. Oh, I didn't say anything about church or God. Dang it. Whoops. I'd go to church.
It's not too late. Okay. What is your proudest accomplishment?
Man,
that's a big one, right?
It's interesting because there's been I noticed, not surprisingly, I noticed that I'm broken this week. I started remembering a lot of really cool things that I've done and accomplished that I just forget about. I think I don't know why. I don't know why. But I think the biggest one, like especially now, but it's also been, I mean, we're here in July and it's been since May. Like it's still setting in that I coached the team to a track championship, state championship. Like I think it's the coolest because I was thinking about it a lot this week. It's like, why? Why is it constantly the thing on my phone that I'm constantly like, it's just pictures of me and the girls celebrating. And I think it's because one, it was something that was never done before. And I feel like I was placed pretty perfectly to be the person to kind of lead this crew.
Yeah.
So I felt like how we talked about in the first segment, like I felt pretty perfectly placed for this, but also a lot of my other accomplishments were like just me. And that one was me, my coaching staff, the parents in the community, the girls, like after years of work, like it was this fruition, especially, I mean, our seniors, our two lead seniors, I've been coaching them through some wins and some failure for 3 years before that.
Right.
I honestly think it's my greatest achievement.
Yeah.
Like,
cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I think it's going to be for a long time.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're not making it up. Like, it's a big deal.
It's still pretty recent, but it's just like, I've been thinking about just how long it's going to last. Like a lot of my other things, it's like, oh yeah, like we did this cool, like even stuff that's really cool. It's like, yeah, Catechism of the Year. The editor on that is the #1 podcast in the world. Like that was really cool, but it's just like other podcasts have been #1 in the world. 100 years from now, people are going to go into St. Joe's gym and they'll be looking at the banners. They'll look like, oh, what's the oldest one we can find? The oldest state championship forever will have my name on it. Like, it's unbelievable.
It's cool.
Unbelievable.
I love it. Okay. What is on your karaoke list? Like you're singing karaoke. What's up?
I have, it's funny. I was listening to a podcast yesterday that was they were talking about this, and they were talking about like, they asked the question in a way that I hadn't, I've heard this question. I've heard you ask this question before, but they said to impress a certain group. Of like, what would you say if you're trying to impress young people? What would you say if you're trying to impress older people?
Funny.
But mine is the stock solid answer for me. It doesn't matter because it's so personal. I was a terrible singer growing up. And now it's a long story, but I started leading worship in high school for our church band. I had no idea how to sing. People took me under their wing, taught me how to sing, coached me how to sing. And then I, got trained through college, and it's like, now that's like, a big thing that I do. And I loved the Goo Goo Dolls in junior high and early high school. Yeah. Like in the time that I couldn't sing. And Iris, you know that song? Yeah. And I don't want the world to see me. I couldn't sing it. I couldn't hit any of the notes. I couldn't hit any of the notes in the chorus. Yeah. So when I was in grad school and I went and did karaoke at a bar at like 2:30 in the morning, I sang that song and I killed it. People have been doing karaoke at this bar for 2 hours. And when karaoke's happening in a bar, people just kind of look at whatever, drinking. Everyone stopped and like stared at me. And I was like, I did it. Take that, everyone who made fun of me for being a bad singer in junior high and early high school.
So
Take
awesome.
That.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I also sang a solo in Carnegie Hall. That could have been an answer for the last
one.
Like, there's just so many cool things.
I know,
I just forget about that. I forgot about it. I didn't even answer that as the question, the answer to the last question. Iris by Goo Goo Dolls.
That's great. That's a great answer. And I love that story. What is something that makes you, how are we doing on time? Do I have time for how many more?
Oh yeah, we're doing great. All we have next is you recording your show with your guest. Not matter to me at all.
What is something that makes you 3 more? Got it. What's something that makes you really angry?
You. I'm just kidding.
I know.
Being late to stuff. Something that makes me really angry. Let's see. You said something earlier when we were in the first segment. You were talking about. It made me think of something. So that makes me very angry is, I'll do one that's currently making me angry.
Okay.
People, acting like children when they're old. There is somebody that is pretty consistently making me angry because they just, it's not growing. It's not growing. That's really what it is, right? Where it's like, I have had every other relationship in my life that is good.
Yeah.
It's like, you and I have had our run-ins and we've had our times where we were mad at each other, but we fixed it and then we move forward and we're probably, cliche, stronger after that or whatever. But it's just like, we've both grown, and like some relationships you grow differently and you grow apart, and that's fine. Yeah. But it's just like, we're here, and I've grown to a completely different person. Not completely different person, but I'm growing up, and this person is just still acting like like it's 10 years ago. Yeah. And it's just like no growth and not wanting the personal growth like that. It makes me angry.
Yeah. That's great. That's a good answer. Okay. I want to know something silly that if you won the lottery, you would buy, like something like totally self-indulgent, and then something actually pretty important. So 2-part.
I mean, the important thing, we'd pay off all of our debts. I said earlier, like, it wouldn't be the top of my list for like to have a nice house, but I would like a nice house if I won the lottery. Like, it's not high on my priority list right now because it's so outlandish that we couldn't even do it, But nice house would be nice, like kind of a standard thing. I would love. It's why God should make me rich. I love buying things for people and make them happy. So God should make me rich because I would give a lot of it away. Something silly. That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. What's yours?
Really,
what's your silly one?
I want an at-home tanning situation because I know. I feel like I should be just a hue darker. Just need a little color.
I said earlier I should be a few hues darker.
But I want to have an at-home, like, walk-in spray tanner. I told this to Liv on we had microphones, so I don't know what we were doing. But she was like, that's not that expensive. And I was like, what? Yes, it is.
She's like, you can have my old one. I have 6. I don't know what I would buy that's silly.
Nothing gaming related? Like, don't you like?
Is there something that you think I already own that's silly?
I'm sure. Like, I feel like I'm looking around at a lot of things that are probably very expensive.
I don't know what I'd buy that's silly. I'm stumped.
Yeah. Okay. So you buy yourself the gaming things you want, right? Like, you don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm poor,
you don't go with
I
that.
already buy myself the gaming things that I want.
Okay.
My joke answer when you first asked it was the silly thing. I'd finally be the only person able to afford the new Apple VR stuff, augmented reality. That was my silly answer. It's a ridiculous purchase because it's so freaking expensive right now. But that'd be fun. I feel like working spatially on my computer, I think it'd be great. That's my silly one.
Okay, last one. Ready?
I'd be one of the 8 people that could afford Apple's new product.
Yeah. How do your friends describe you?
That's a great question for you.
I didn't ask me.
You're my friend. No, you're not.
How do you think your friends describe you?
I'm constantly worried about this.
You don't give a crap about this, Taylor.
I'm constantly worried about this.
Oh my gosh.
After every interaction with one of my friends, I've been dealing with this a lot recently. I constantly.
You ask yourself, how do people experience me?
I constantly think people are going to break up with me. After almost every conversation with you, I think you're going to quit the show. After every conversation with Father Anthony, I think he's going to quit the show. After Catherine's new enough, but the person, multiple people have quit on me. And it's because of my personality. It's because of who I am as a human being. So I am constantly worried about, like, almost every phone conversation. I'm like, did I talk too much? Did I make this more about me? Like, I'm constantly worried. That's why I would love to know how
I feel like I know you really well, and I had no idea you gave a care.
Oh, yeah. I think I have to get to the point where I don't care because it happens so often that people just hate me and walk away from me. You're one of the few. I mean, you've been here the longest.
I'm pathologically loyal. I have issues, Taylor.
Pathologically, for sure. Your brokenness is the only reason that we can be friends.
We're doing it. We're doing it.
Like, legitimately, constantly worried about it.
Yeah.
I have very little friends left, and everyone else left.
This is a great way to end.
I'm real sad.
Did y'all have any idea? Who knew? This is great.
I don't care at all what you care when people leave you hateful comments on the internet. I either block them immediately or screw with them. because it doesn't.
Yeah.
But if somebody close to me says something that I said
Yeah.
offended, I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
I don't remember the question now. I'm so sad. Everyone leaves me. I hate this game.
Taylor,
Why
I'm
did we
really
do this
happy to be
segment?
here.
I don't know what to do with this.
I think that
I think you
now
need to
is a
answer the
good time,
question.
friends. Now is a good time, friends, for everyone to give your loving feedback. Taylor's having a vulnerable moment
oh my
here.
God.
Never happens. I think we should pounce.
I'm never giving control of the show away ever again. I hate this so much. I was having so much fun till you asked that question.
Oh, Taylor, I describe you as loud and proud and loyal. Loud, proud, loyal. And I do think you're an encourager. I think that when I have, just been down on myself about stuff that matters, if I'm down on myself about stuff that doesn't matter, you pile on.
Yeah, 100%.
If I'm down on myself about stuff that matters, you speak truth. So that's kind of the loyal part, and like the loyal, encouraging part.
You were so mad about something that was so silly before we recorded the show. I walked away from you and constantly laughed for like 15 minutes or 15 seconds until you started laughing. You went from incredibly angry to laughing with me because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, it's true. That's good. Anyways, that's how I would describe you.
I'm sweating so
You
badly.
are. It's true, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but I wasn't until 5 minutes ago. It's so cool in here for the first time. Oh, man. I don't know. You broke me. Well, that's our show. I'm Taylor Stroll. I'll be back next week as long as I can put my brain back together. That's Allison Sullivan. I don't even know her name. She'll be back in a month. See ya.
Doesn't matter. You don't call me by it anyway.
Thank y'all for watching and listening today. I hope that you enjoyed today's show. If you did, please hit the subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening. If you know of somebody who may have enjoyed today's conversation, somebody who maybe wants to use their gifts for the Lord a little bit more, somebody who really likes the NBA, wants to learn more about Saints, we would just really appreciate it if you could share this with a friend, share it on your socials, tag us. We'll reshare all that sort of stuff. So we'll be back next week with a great episode for you. Until then, love you.